All right, I think we can get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today. We're happy to have you here and appreciate you taking the time to join this talk. Before we begin, let's take a moment to reflect on the land that we are on and its history. We acknowledge that the land that we are meeting on today is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We are most grateful and respectful for the use of this land. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's session, Michael Scarbeau. Michael is a partner, insurance technology, consulting data, and AI practice at EY. He brings in over 20 years of experience across insurance, financial services, and technology consulting. We're so happy to have you here. Michael, the session today will outline how AI has progressed from traditional machine learning to today's generative and agentic capabilities, highlighting the rapid democratization of AI tools and platforms and key applications of AI across insurance functions with insights into measurable productivity gains and operational improvements. Now, we're going to have a lot of interactive polls and elements throughout the session today, so I request the audience to be ready with your phones. The link to the polls will be sent in the chat, so just have an eye out in the chat as well. And we're excited to learn from your journey and experiences, Michael. Please take it away.
Thanks a lot. Really happy to be here with all of you today. I'm going to be going through a few things today. As mentioned, I'm going to be going a bit over my career journey with all of you and share some lessons learned that I'd love to share. I really like speaking at universities and colleges and sharing my track record. I was once a student, of course, and an intern, so it's near and dear to my heart. As well as I'm going to share a little bit about the world of AI, and it's changing ever so quickly. This week, we only have so many polls that we can do with online. So I think we've got three or four of them. But my interest this week's been really taken up with Moltbook, and so I don't have one in a poll about Moltbook, but I'm really curious in the chat if any of you are quite fascinated by it. I've been following it really close. So anyways, I'm a partner. I recently joined EY. So I'm in our technology consulting, and I represent the insurance sector for data and AI. I've worked across multiple organizations, public and private sector, and I'll go a little bit through that journey with you today. And at the end of the meeting today, I'll give a little bit of feedback on some of my career lessons learned after we get through the AI piece. But I want to start fun. I'm freezing here in Toronto. It's been a tough year so far. I like outside of work, I live in the Toronto area. I'm involved, love to play sports, love to travel, some recent adventures I've had here. So the first poll question I want to know, just before we get into the AI topic, I want to know, does anyone have any places they recommend to travel? Looking for the next spot? Anything you want to share with the others on the call? While you're filling that out, I'm also on the board of directors for Boys and Girls Club Durham. It's another organization that's near and dear to my heart, been involved for 3 years. If you don't know much about Boys and Girls Club, I suggest look it up and find out. We're always looking for folks to help give back and support our kids across Canada. Curious to see some locations. Some that you see here on my screen. Went to the top of the Alps in Switzerland there. Visited Milan, some great shopping there. Just recently visited the Bahamas for the first time, and earlier this year or last year, I went to Peru and went to Machu Picchu. So, and took up surfing a couple of years ago and I did Tofino. So it's been a lot of adventure. Later this year, I'm visiting Costa Rica, and I'm going to plan another trip. I don't know where to go. So again, look forward to seeing your feedback. So as mentioned before, I've been in the technology space and financial services over 20 years. I actually went to Seneca at York University as a computer programmer. I ended up starting my career with CIBC. It was a fantastic journey there. I was there for 13 years. I became the expert in kind of business intelligence, and I was really around the Oracle technology. Things are going well there, but I made a huge shift to try and work, move around the industry. And that was a scary move at the time, but I'm glad I did it. I worked at WSIB for 2.5 years. the Commonwealth, which is a mutual insurance company. My last organization I just recently departed from was HSB Munich Re. It's a fantastic organization. And now I'm with EY. So very, very different, but it's an exciting place to be at. I'm enjoying the pace and enjoying working with some of the best and brightest across the world. So I'm going to actually share a little bit about EY with all of you too. I just want to talk really briefly about EY. I won't take too much time, but EY is over 400,000 people across the world, over 91,000 in the Americas. We've got a strong data and AI team in Canada, over 250 people, but we've got folks from across the world. So it's really exciting to be here working with some amazing individuals. We've got some strong alliances that you see in the top right there, including IBM, Microsoft, NVIDIA. And these alliances really help us propel out world-class solutions for our clients. So EY's purpose, one of the things I'm really excited to be here is, we're really trying to help build a better working world. So trying to create value for our clients, people, society, and the planet. And, I'm still new here, but I'm getting to learn some of what EY does across the globe. And it's a great place to be so far. We serve multiple industries. Again, I'm in the insurance financial services sector, but we service all the industries across Canada and energy, consumer, government. So we do that across the board. One thing I think is really cool about EY, and I say this when I meet with some clients across insurance, is EY is really client zero around AI. We've rolled out AI to over 90,000 people across the firm. We want to be viewed as the world's most trusted AI-powered professional services firm. So we got to breathe it and live it ourselves if we're going to try and help others with it. And certainly we've done that, and I've seen that here in my short time here. And again, EY is a fantastic place to work, won multiple awards, great workplaces, a very diverse place. You can check that out for yourself. Just thought I would share. All right, so let's get into the fun part here. So we're going to get into the world of AI. I'm sure all of you in your studies or your employment, or your personal life, you've got into it, but I want to take you through a bit of the journey and kind of where things are at right now. Okay, so AI, I know it's what we're all talking about, what we're all living and doing now, but really it's been around for a long time. So really, artificial intelligence really did start in the 50s with some of the computers. Machine learning, deep learning really was taken off over 20 years ago. I've managed groups that have done, classic predictive large models, technologies like SAS, but really things started to really take off with generative AI and GPT. As you know, depending on the audiences I talk to, some are very versed in it and some are not. But it's good, I think, to talk about the journey. This is not just it's here and it's come out of nowhere. It's really been an evolution. But the real thing now is around agentic AI, and this, which is capable of generating original content and really making autonomous decisions. So that's really where we're looking next, and I'll talk more about that today. So just really around GPT, probably many of you are familiar with it, but the real power around GPT is it's creating this flexible model that can answer prompted questions, generate stories, summarize text, and with that, with the underlying technologies and infrastructure, can allow us to move to this world of agentic AI. And this is really a topic that we're talking about across Canada at this time, about seeing how workforces will move to that. The thing with AI, though, is in the thing technology, it changes incredibly quick. Even in my 20 plus years, things were always moving fast in technology. You might master something, but you should move on to something else. In the world of AI, it's constantly changing. I might prescribe or say something, but it changes so fast. You can look at this ecosystem. When I put this slide together with the team, it's probably out of date already. This is how quick it's moving. So it's a very interesting, incredible time to be involved with the data and AI space. And I think we're at a really important turning point. So AI capabilities are taking off at an incredible pace. A lot of organizations are interested in ChatGPT and embedding Gen AI into their organization for their workers to leverage, but also for solutions to embed. But now we're really at building these agentic AI architectures and platforms that will really change the way organizations see. There was a quote from a CEO that we're working with in Europe and made a very interesting comment. The CEOs of today are probably the last ones that just have humans working for them. Looking forward, there's going to be agents that are also part of this hybrid workforce. So, if I view myself, I might have a team, but I'm also going to have a team of agents. And that also then changes for the people working in the organization. So this is a huge shift. It's not yet rolled out in organizations. A lot of them are thinking about it and talking about it. And that's actually part of my job, is to help organizations get there. So AI and insurance, there is lots of opportunity. There's lots there. I'm going to walk you through kind of the impact it can have and where we see it taking place. So really across all the organizational areas of insurance can be impacted by AI, whether it's an enabling function or the core function of insurance. So in the actuarial, claims, risk, and underwriting, which are really the core functions of an insurance organization, whether it's the underwriting assistance, which I'll walk you through a bit more, knowledge management, claims processing and management, and then pricing, risk assessment. All these areas can be impacted by AI. In the core technology area, that can run across any industry: software development, code generation, code validation, migrations, conversions. All these things can be enabled by AI. I truly don't think it's going to replace the human, but it augments the human. And you'll hear me talk about this a lot. I like to call it augmented intelligence, not artificial intelligence, including all the other areas of an organization: customer management, finance, accounting, distribution, HR and people, all impacted by it. When we look at agentic AI, though, we think that there's significant productivity gains that could be had here. In underwriting, automated risk assessment, accelerated evaluation timelines, there could be up to a 30% gain. Depending on who you talk to, they might say it's more than that. I'm taking a little bit more conservative approach because I think the work doesn't always get eliminated, it just shifts. Claims adjusting and managing, the same thing. We're seeing that. Actuarial, and then these support roles that I mentioned: marketing, sales, customer service. We feel that all these gains can be had. So let's focus on underwriting for a minute. So really, if we get to the world that we have this orchestrated AI, and I'll talk about that orchestration a bit later, there will be impacts around speed, conversion, efficiency, and readiness. I want to kind of talk about what happens today. It's a reality I'm seeing across insurance. A lot of insurance is run on email and documents and manual workflow. It's a reality of it. There's a lot of complexities involved, a lot of human decision making. So when a new piece of business comes into an organization, many times it actually comes through an email, believe it or not always through a structured form or a portal. When that comes in via an email, it can be slowed down by inconsistent documents, unstructured data, incomplete data, and forms. Requires a human to get involved, and then what's called a triage that will look at it. Who needs to work on this? Is it Mike? Is it someone else? There's a bit of judgment there. And there, a lot of the times it might be going back to who's sending in the information. You've missed this. You need to validate this. Once you actually get it into the underwriting workflow, there's underwriters that rely heavily on information, typically sometimes in their minds through experience and documents, and they have to transverse many areas to get that information. And then eventually you get to a point that you might want to rate and quote. Pricing is very complex, and there's in some cases, and it requires rework. And that sometimes, I'll believe it or not, sometimes this pricing and rating sits in an Excel spreadsheet, not always in a sophisticated system. So when you add all this up, it requires lots of humans handing things over, judgment, and it requires time. So in the world of AI, agentic AI, imagine an agent sitting on top of this that is working with the humans to facilitate some of the review, bringing the information back, passing it on, giving it an assessment, almost like a co-pilot or an adjustment. I think the world of an autonomous AI agent, we're not quite there yet. Theoretically, it could be done, but you have to be worried about governance, wrong decisions. So a human should always be in the loop. And when I speak to various organizations, and I know me personally being a former head of IT and being a senior executive in the company, we worry about the risk. So, but definitely you can augment that process. But I think the human in the loop is critical. But as you can see at the bottom here, there's lots of opportunity. On the other side, on the claim side, you see the other thing. So, a customer or a member, they have an issue and they need help. Insurance is a very empathetic industry. There's a built on relationships and that human element, especially when then people are going through maybe some of the roughest times when they've got a claim, something's happened to their house or their car or themselves. So, when there's a high volume of claims, things can be delayed. It requires people to put it in, to have time to look at it. It could take time. They have to do proper analysis. Sometimes, depending on the complexity of the type of insurance, it could take a while to do this and then pay it out. AI can come in and help validate, again, hand over things and get that information correct. And hopefully, what we're hoping for is be able to service the clients at a fast and prompt, accurate way to help them get through this challenging time that they're going through. So I think this is like a key, really interesting slide. So, where are we today? So if you work in an insurance company, whether you're in IT, data, underwriting, claims, you probably are a doer. You have a job. You have to execute on your work. And depending on, the processes and the technologies and your insight, let's just say that hopefully you can get some sort of productivity gains, but let's call it 1x today. But now we're at this important point with GPT and AI. If you're going to embed these tools into your daily work cycle, we see productivity gains, and you should become a user of these AI tools. I think anyone that's not using them, you're going to lag behind. So you should at least be using them, but it shouldn't replace the work or judgment that you do. You will see a productivity gain. I personally use AI every day, whether it's crafting information, research, it helps. Yeah, but it doesn't replace the work being done. Now we want to get to the point. Imagine you're an underwriter and you're working in an organization. You've got these agents working for you, and now you become almost a manager of them. You delegate work to them. These multitask agents work and perform a task using tools and give it back to you. This is where we think that we'll start to see these underwriting productivity gains. And it's really a shift from task execution to managing outcomes. And then kind of that final state, the word orchestrator, and this requires a very sophisticated data and AI architecture and orchestration architecture to allow people to orchestrate these agents that are managing other agents, running multiple tools. And that's when you get to real productivity gain. Are we there today? No. The organizations that are going to get ahead in the future are going to embrace this and embed a new business model that changes the way they think and work. This is a lot of the conversations that we're having today and where things will go in the future. So we're talking about all this gains and all this productivity, but if you don't have responsible AI principles at the foundation, you can have considerable risk and things can fall apart very quickly. So all the conversations is around responsible AI. How do you embed that from the get-go? How do you embed a proper architecture, proper change management, proper levels of disclosure? And that has to be the heart of what you do. And really what organizations need to figure out is they have to have a very, very well thought out strategy and roadmap to do this. It's not something that you can immediately do. The last organization I was at, HSB Munich Re, we took a very thoughtful approach to how we apply AI across the organization without just applying it day one before we rolled it out to individuals at the organization. We had to make sure it was secure, people knew what it can do, the dangers of it, and many organizations are doing the same thing. So I went through a lot of content there, and I guess I'm going to give you 3 key takeaways. So agentic AI is here. It's very advanced form of AI that mimics human behavior and actions through a combination of machine learning, deep learning, and other techniques. Think of it as agents that are calling multi-agents that could be other agents that are running tools, and humans eventually will be managing or orchestrating these tools. Agentic AI will disrupt across functions and across industries. In particular, in insurance, as you see, the core functions will be disrupted and new business models will come from that, as well as transferable models across all organizations, whether it's technology, HR, or finance, certainly will be impacted. And it requires a well thought out strategy and a successful execution to have safe employee adoption of AI tools and responsible considerations and governance. It's paramount when enabling use cases. And I know I went pretty fast. I'm gonna go back for a second. And Mia, I think I had a couple other polls. I'm not sure if we shared them. So I think on this slide here, I wanna put up the second Slido if we can. I know that we had a question around the impact around AI in the
Yes,
areas. And did we share that with the group?
yes, I will try to share my screen. I hope it
I'm
doesn't
curious
get
to see
up.
some of the response.
Yes, let's see. Okay, do you see my screen?
No, I cannot. I'm not sure if others can because I'm sharing.
I can see your screen, Maya.
Okay, maybe you can just read it back to me because I can't see it.
Um, okay, so for the second poll, which future will you most reshape insurance by 2030? Um, we have the most voted is AI-powered automation, operational efficiency, and automation.
Very
And
cool.
the least voted is the embedded insurance, Gen AI, and enables customer experience.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And then I'm also curious maybe on this one here. This is a pretty impactful slide. I'm curious what the group thinks the impact of agentic AI could be on insurance. Is that poll complete?
Yes, so there are 16 votes, and 65% of them think it's twice to 10 times.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's probably going to be in that range. Very interesting. Again, I'm seeing this a lot. One topic that's come up is if you have agents working autonomously together, and how do you ensure the validation of it, right? So there's obviously a traditional kind of software development lifecycle where when you build these, you test it, but the human in the loop now shifts maybe some of that work that the human was doing, but they have to still validate it. So I don't think the efficiency gains immediately will be 10x, maybe 2x in some way, but I think it shifts the way work happens. So it's interesting to see that response. And I guess, are there any questions in the chat for me before I move on to maybe some of my career journey?
Everyone, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself to ask Michael or put it in the chat.
Hi, my name is Navjot. I have a question.
Sure.
So as you said, like much of the work is the world is shifting towards agentic AI. So it's related to the career. So what do you think the early career professionals, like as the landscape changes, what are the key skills required to kind of uh, uh, s- shift and like change and adapt the system?
Yeah. And are you speaking more from a technology skill set or a business skill set?
Business skill set, but I would
Sure.
love to know if you have any inputs for the technical stuff as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's just maybe a generic statement, even pre Gen AI or agentic AI. I always say to technology grads, wherever you end up working in your career, go and learn the business as much as you can. I started as a technologist, as a software engineer, but I would say I'm more of a business executive now. I've really learned the business and vice versa. If you are going into the business practice, maybe actuarial, pricing, underwriting, learn the systems and underlying architecture. So I would say no different here when it comes to AI. Try and understand the basics of AI and how it works in terms of architecture and leveraging it within your workflow. I've tried at organizations to try and embed like low code or self-serve technology, then be embedded in the business. So I think being curious and learning some of the technology, if you're on the business side, will make you super powered because if you have like a group of these agents working for you and you can even build your own agent, simple agent using technology that your organization gives you, it will make you more efficient and not have you be reliant on someone else. So that'd be kind of my advice.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
Do we have any other questions? I think we can move on, Mike.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the question. So thought I would just share a little bit of my career background. It's been a great journey. Over 20 years, I've learned a lot. I'm still learning every day. Um, but based on some of my experience, I can definitely help organizations with business transformation and their strategy. I didn't know that day one, but I learned that through working on the right projects, getting some of the right opportunities, technology and data roadmaps and execution. Constantly, organizations are looking to evolve. So wherever you end up getting experience, you're going to be a part of this, whether on the output of it or up front. So it's valuable experience to get. Again, I've enabled some AI at organizations, whether through traditional artificial intelligence models, embedded some Gen AI recently into some of our solutions, and now I'm looking at the world of agentic AI, but low code or self-serve for empowering business users to do some technology innovation without being coders. I think it's been around a while. That's still a big topic. In the world of insurance, Guidewire is the de facto policy claims platform. There's other platforms out there, but if you get experience on that, it's a very transferable skill in insurance, makes you quite attractive. AI and data governance. I mean, data governance has been around a long time, but data is the backbone now to organizations, especially if they want to get into AI. So I think it makes even more importance, and understanding data and AI architectures and governance is super and critical, even if you're not in that space, but understanding it will make you invaluable. Again, past few years have been really focused on how insurance operations work. Again, whether or not you're working in insurance or somewhere else, and if you're a technologist, like I said, really understand trying to understand the business works, be as curious as you can and learn. I started my career in business intelligence analytics. I haven't done it myself in a while, but dashboards, reports, it's a part of everyone's day-to-day lives at organizations, leveraging data. So being able to produce these things and telling a story with data is so important. So great skill to learn. And then really at the end of the day, everything we do is really around people. And, if I talk about my good times here, what I'm most proud about, I'm proud about some of the business acumen that I've built. Again, I was a technologist, started that way in school. And really, I've learned how, organizations function, and I'm still learning every day. But I couple that with my technology and data background. It makes me flexible and nimble to pivot in different directions. Number one thing for me, it's always been the people. Might even be some friendly faces on this call today, but really it's about the amazing teams and great people that I've met along the way, seeing people grow exponentially, what it's all about. And I wouldn't be where I am today without my deep network. So I like doing some of these things because meeting all of you also expands my network, and all of you need to make sure you're out there and meeting individuals. I spoke at another university on Friday, and also the network within your own education and your own work is important. Paying it forward and working together to helping some of your peers is important. I've driven some deep transformations, and people ask me what projects I'm proud about. Sure, I built systems or a certain application, but it's really around the journeys and not so much the output that I'm proud about. Seeing different business models, different ways of thinking, that's probably what I'm most proud about, versus saying, I've implemented system A or application or product A, B, or C. If you want, check me out. I was on a feature a couple of years ago at my previous organization. It was a good highlight of some of what we were doing at the time. But I've learned more from the challenging times versus the good times, so I wanted to share that. I'll start with for some of you, some of your career started before COVID-19, some of you started after, in between. It was a challenging time. I used to be in the office 5 days a week. In the world of technology, it can be kind of hybrid, and then we were working from home. For me, I'm like a glass half full type of person. I found it'd be a great learning time, but definitely shifting to that way of work was definitely a transition. Some people had a challenge with it. For me, I learned a lot of great things by it, including a proper way to balance your life. I think that's an important thing to do. I've been a part of a cyber attack, being the head of IT. It was not a fun exercise at all. I learned a lot about it and how important protecting your infrastructure is and how you properly respond. I had a program I did way back when at the bank where really was giving data and analytics to really increase revenues across the branch distribution network. But the reason I remember this one, it really came with impossible timelines and possible expectations and the stress about that. And I would say at points we failed. We had trouble building it, but I learned a lot about, expectation settings. Myself as a senior leader, I set expectations out there and you do that, put a line in the sand. But you as the one doing the delivery or doing the work, and you probably all face this, sometimes you'll have a really tough challenge, and it's best to call it out and negotiate and try and work towards the outcome versus trying to do the impossible. That takes a bit of experience to learn some of that, but definitely that was that. And then at the end of the day, as you hear me say, people is what it's all about. All the great good times have been challenging times, challenging people to work with, had to let people go, had challenging people hiring, maybe, trying to find the right talent. We've had people leave, go on to new opportunities, but at the end of the day, things are fluid and they evolve. And when they do, you got to be ready for it. So at the end of the day, I've talked about technologies today, talked about data, but it's really about people. Anyone have any questions maybe about my career or any career questions that they have?
I can ask another question.
Sure. Hi.
So I'm a Master of Management in AI student myself. Like I'm also for the past 1 year, I've been learning about the models and how everything is shifting and moving towards the uh, more automation side of it. So
Mhm.
I just want to know more your view on as we move towards automation, when it comes to sectors like financial, insurance, or banking, who do you think will be accountable if something goes wrong? I know you like mentioned there should be a human in the
Mhm.
loop, but if we are moving towards automation and we are relying on AI agents to kind of uh, take over the most of the workflow, uh,
Mm.
where does and who will be responsible?
Yeah.
I just want to know.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think I have the perfect answer, but I'll give you my opinion on it. And I think it really depends on maybe how the organization is structured. But if I use a traditional IT solution before AI, typically you have an IT partner or an IT group that builds a solution and you have a business group own the solution. So let's say it's an underwriting solution. Myself as the technologist would own the infrastructure and the platform, and there will be bugs, right? There's always bugs in technology and data. I think that there's a partnership between the business and the technology to solve those problems. But at the end of the day, the business owns the outcome of using that technology. Now, in the world of AI, you've got these AI agents. I think IT is going to shift to be in some ways almost like human resources. They're going to hire and fire agents, right? Agentic agents. So I think there's an element of the technology and data group build and test some of the success of what the agent's supposed to do with the tools. But then I think that group that owns the outcome have to ultimately own the decision. So they need to have the right guardrails that IT would help put in technology, but they should have their own business guardrails to make sure that the right decisions are being validated before it goes out the door, right? So how that's set up, I think it's going to pivot a little bit from organization to organization, but I think it's no different than traditional data governance. Some organizations centralize the decision making, some distribute it. Really depends on the organization, but you got to have guardrails in place.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah, hello. Yeah,
Hello.
please, are you able to hear me? Yeah, this is Dominic. Yeah, I have a question as
Sure.
well regarding that. I think based on your answer, it seems this is more or less like an institutional or organizational level of sort of regulation concerning that. Are there a sector-wise trend in terms of regulation regarding this AI usage?
Yeah, I mean, Dominic, everyone's on a different point in their journey, but I think for every sector, regardless, I know today's topic's really around insurance, but I think every sector is going to create different business models. So organizations really need to be looking at their operating models and understand how to leverage AI, because if you don't, a lot of concepts are thinking about a concept of creating like an AI factory so that they can create these agents. I think organizations that don't embrace that, they will be potentially left behind in terms of efficiency and decision making. So I think we're going to reach a disruption point. How fast it will go, how it will go down, I think it's we're going to have to see how it plays out. But I think the organizations that are going after it now could have a potentially disrupting advantage. Believe it or not, though, Dominic, there's some organizations that won't even roll out basic Copilot or GPT services, right? Because depending on the posture of the organization, they're even a step before that. There's some organizations that are okay with that. They've found ways to put guardrails around it and training, and then they're looking towards the agentic, and then there's some that are just in the middle. So it's going to be an interesting next few years, I think.
Okay, so it means that basically within the insurance sector, let's say the government or centrally coming up some sort of a regulation to say that okay, all insurance companies or institutions, these are probably, I mean, a sort of rollout of programs that we expect you to actually operate within your institution. So there is not been any of that sort, or the government is no more looking towards that
Yeah,
direction.
in terms of regulation, Dominic, there's as of 2025 today, there's nothing in place. There's talk about putting some of these regulations in. A lot of organizations rely on some of the other things in place like PIPEDA, Personal Information Act, and leveraging those things to kind of put these guardrails. But I envision, Dominic, that something will come about. I'm a part of a few other industry agnostic groups where these topics are being discussed, but nothing's in place today.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for the question.
Hi, Mike. My name is
Hello.
Sola, and I'm
Hello.
currently doing my master's in business analytics at York University. And so one thing that is constantly reiterated to us is the need for model interpretability, right? So I was just wondering, like, as underwriting teams, like, adopt AI-enabled tools, like, how do we ensure like the model output remains like explainable, reliable, and like appropriately governed, especially when like supporting risk and like pricing decisions?
That's a great question. I I don't know like maybe the technical 101 about how that would be achieved, but I would say in terms of the success or the interpretability of that model, there needs to be a feedback loop, not only during the build of that model, but the ongoing validation of the outcome of that model. And again, as I mentioned before, kind of the guardrails around how that business unit leverages it. That's a topic, a very simplified topic, but I've embedded some Gen AI into calls within programs, but like that feedback loop about how valid that outcome is, you need to have that embedded within it. And again, it shifts some of the work that's happening versus maybe that outcome that the model is producing might have been what a human did, but you need to validate it. It can't, and how they get it to a higher success rate. I think it's a great question and something that needs to be looked at. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's organization by organization has to have an approach of how they look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna have to think about that one some more.
Yeah.
We also have a question in the chat. So Kobe has asked that he's looking to get into AI and data governance and have experience in GRC analytics within an AI consulting space. What would you suggest he should do to break into a field like that?
For sure. Well, I think depending on the programs, the individuals on the call are taking, hopefully some of them have co-op or internships. That's one way to get experience. There's a lot of competition these days, right? But I think in terms of skill set, I'm seeing a lot around, certifications of certain technologies. And what I tell you today might not be relevant a few years from now, right? Things change quick, but getting knowledge or certifications in some of the technologies like, and some of the open AI like Anthropic, but also on the back end, like some of the platforms like Databricks or Snowflake. These are the flavors of the year right now. They help build this agentic architecture, Azure AI Foundry. Learning some of these things would help, but in terms of getting in terms of experience, like definitely wherever you're going, like there's for your education, hopefully they've got an internship. It's the best way that you try and do that. I will say, being new at EY, kind of shifted from where I've been previously, where I was at Munich Re, HSB, and Commonwealth. Like I would have to go out of my way to try and get students to want to join us because a lot of them gravitate to the Microsofts or the EYs or the Deloittes of the world, and there's a lot of competition to get in here. So we recruit now for next year, and we can have thousands of applicants. So I'm new here in terms of how they get through that. I think, put your best foot forward. But what I've been saying where I go speak elsewhere is don't hang your hat on one organization. I would say cast your net wide. Small and medium-sized organizations are a fantastic place to work and get experience, not just the big players like EY. I think there's lots of great organizations to get experience. And I know people that started with me at Commonwealth, and now they're working at Microsoft. So you can start somewhere and you can pivot, get great experience, work with some good leadership, and might help open some doors. So there's different ways to get there.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I see another question in the chat from an actuarial student. He says, I'm not sure if your team works on cyber risk in specialty lines, but if you worked with cyber insurance, how do you, as an AI and data consultant, partner with or guide the actuarial team when developing cyber insurance products?
So here at EY, I've not worked with any specialty insurer on cyber as of yet, but my previous employer, we did cyber insurance. So we had not embedded any AI, but definitely there's a very sophisticated framework about how we, price and we build the cyber insurance product. A lot of thought goes into that. Takes a long time to build the proper product, and you want to have the proper services around that to manage it because cyber insurance is a highly growing space, competitive. But for us here on the cyber side, like if we're the EY with the help accelerate, again, it comes down to your overall organizational operating model and what are the chief of the objectives of that organization and how can we enable those and put the proper support in place to build that. So in terms of like the cyber underwriting, no firsthand experience here, but in the past, like that was a huge focus for us. And you want to have the proper, underwriting approach to how you look at cyber insurance and make sure you also have the services to protect those potential clients to make sure that they are protecting their environment once you have them under your policy. So hope I answered some of that question. I tried.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we've got another one from Dominic. From your experience at EY and others, where have you seen Gen AI plus agentic genuinely improve human judgment and insurance rather than just speed and efficiency?
I'm going to be honest, in the world of agentic AI, I haven't seen it yet, right? I'm talking to you right now about where things are going, organizations are moving to. With anything, what you need to do, I'm going to three-step process. First, the organization has to understand where they want to go, what they want to do, and then they start thinking about how they achieve it. I think all organizations need to have AI embedded in that strategy and potentially agentic AI. You then look at the best use cases and you prove it out. So proof of concept, proof of value. That would give you a sense of maybe what gains you might get and what you might not get. A lot of times in technology and data, we have high hopes and they don't always completely hit the mark. You have to adjust. And then once you understand it, you scale it. So I think that's what you'll see. And you learn and adjust and you fail fast is what I like to say. In the world of Gen AI, I've done a bit of deployment with that. And again, feedback loop. We built a Gen AI that, fed feedback into an application we built on unstructured data that's coming in through email. It didn't work perfectly. You're not going to get 100% success, but you build and you learn from it. And in some cases, if you don't have an underlying generative model, you have to build really strong prompt logic. So prompt logic is super critical. You can only get that through a feedback loop. So once you test and you build it, you start to get, you'll get some gains, but you have to measure it too. But I haven't seen, we said in the the question, between 2 and 10x. I haven't seen that yet. I think the potential is there, but I have not seen it.
We have a hand raised.
Hi, my name is
Hello.
Veronica. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to
I
meet you.
have a yeah, and I have a question. Is about so now like I find lots of like organizations are embedding the AI like internally, and I just wonder like how well this kind of specialized like domain specialized AI include like involve in our like teams or project and like in the future, because I think the development of this kind of like internal AI will be like grow really fast maybe in the future, and how can we work with this kind of like techniques, or we can say like AI identities, like how to work with them, or what will happen in the future. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think again, organizations need to think about their entire employee base, right? And think about, what is their vision around AI? Does this organization want AI to be at the fingertips, Veronica, of yourself to use and give
Yeah.
you the proper training and tooling? They have to
Yeah.
first make that decision. If they want to do that, there's a really important, I think, training program an organization should do, and it should start right at the top, executive team down to
True.
folks starting out. And here at EY, again, I call us client zero. Like we rolled it out to 80,000 people, very robust training program.
Yeah.
We built our own LLM internally. We do have Copilot, but like we also flash up like warnings on our screen saying, just because AI built this for you doesn't mean it's right. Always validate and second guess, right? Your work.
Yeah.
Because you've probably seen on the news, some organizations got in trouble by just taking output from AI and saying it's good,
Yeah.
right? That's a risk.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be a really strong education around that. Just no different if you work in an organization, there's strong education around cybersecurity, right? Even if you're not
Yes.
an IT person, like you got to understand what phishing is and all those things. I think it's no different here.
Yeah.
But like taking that step further, like being a manager of an agentic AI, that first of all, the organization has to make the choice if they want to get to that framework. And if they do, they have to think about how they deploy it and what is the training around that. Like Veronica, if you're going to be managing agentic AI, you need to understand, maybe you won't be technically building it, but you need to understand how they interact with it. You need to be trained on that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's a major decision, and it's a completely different way of working.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I learned a lot. Thank you.
No problem. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
We have another question in the chat. It says, what's your opinion on explainable AI for the black box models and insurance domain?
Can you repeat that one for me?
Yeah. It says, what's your opinion on explainable AI for the black box models and insurance domain?
That's a good question. I haven't, in my personal experience, I haven't seen that scenario where, but there's definitely a scenario of, I mentioned earlier, as you start to roll out different AI models or even agentic where it's validating using tools or validating output, how do you again have the process built around that to validate what's there? I don't have an answer for how we do that as of yet, but that approach needs to be upfront and it needs to be built into what the organizations try to do, because if you're working blind, you could have biases or incorrect results. So I think there's probably an entire approach that someone that's an expert in building some of these models that we'd have to have that thought of right up front. But that's a great question. Organizations need to be asking that question, right? So, I mean, the fact you asking that is also what we want organizations to be thinking about. Not everyone's thinking about some of these things, right? It's evolving quick.
For sure, yeah. Sadia, did you have any question as well?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mike, for all the explanation. It was great hearing about your journey to AI. And so, because I know that you are an AI and data governance partner, I wanted to ask something specific, which is, would you support like a formal regulation on how insurers should use AI, in particular for underwriting, pricing claims, and other stuff, just to prevent like any sort of biases or, sort of ensure transparency over there?
It's a great question. I think having some regulation or some insurance-wide framework would help with maybe adoption as well as some sort of, like as we said, guardrails. Having a formal regulation could stifle some things also, could slow it down. So what is that perfect balance? I think it's a bit of the Wild West right now. So somewhere, if we go on the other side, having tough, tight regulation, I think it will land somewhere in the middle. But we need something there. Organizations one-on-one have to have governance and human in the loop. I'm a part of a few forums I mentioned where we're talking about these topics, but nothing is formalized as of yet. But I think you will see things come out over time. But we need to have that right balance to allow innovation and allow outcomes and some organizational risks to be there, but having some, guardrails and maybe help accelerate some organizations that might not have the capacity to jump right into it that some of the larger ones do.
Got it. And then do you think these insurance companies or companies in general, are they hiring people who understand AI and what sort of data goes onto the AI? Because some of them might be biases in itself, right? These AI
Mhm.
could be trained in biased information. And so when you are using these AI, they can give biased input as well. So are these companies, and specifically EY, are they hiring people who understand these things and, sort of understand the risk of having AI in these sort of conversations, especially insurance, because there are a lot of people involved here.
Yeah, certainly organizations are hiring people with the AI background and they want to build it. I think that think of it as if you join an organization and say you don't have maybe as a technical or as a data focused background that some of us on the call have, just understanding how to use data is a basic training many organizations do, and being able to tell a story with data. I think it's going to get to the point that organizations will have the similar training around using AI outputs, right? And that's part of that rollout strategy, I think. But like at a more technical level, a deeper level, organizations are certainly hiring this. It's definitely happening now, and I can say at EY, it's prevalent everywhere.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, no, thank you.
If you have any more questions, we only have a couple minutes left.
All right. I'm a big sports person, and Wayne Gretzky is one of my favorites. And I know this is a quote you probably heard elsewhere in the entertainment world, but I do believe in it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So all of you out there, take those chances, go for it. I wouldn't be where I am today without taking some calculated risks. When I believed in myself or I believed in an idea, you don't know if you don't ask. So I like to repeat that. And again, Wayne Gretzky scored, Ovechkin's passed him, but he scored over 800 goals. If he didn't shoot the puck, he wouldn't have scored the goal at all. So go for it. That's my advice to all of you. And again, thanks for having me today. I will share this back with the RISC group, the presentation. Follow EY Canada, doing some incredible things. Again, great organization to work for. My previous organizations, HSB, Munich Re, Commonwealth, also a fantastic place to work for, CIBC. And then connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, I'm always looking to grow my network and learn a lot from all of you too. Again, some questions that made me think today. Hope you learned something from me, and I hope wish all of you the best. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much. That quote was awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, everyone, for asking some amazing questions. And Mike, we are grateful that you joined today. And thank you for delivering such an insightful session and sharing your career journey. It was truly valuable, and I'm confident all of our participants took away a lot from your experience and your journey. We appreciate you taking the time, and thank you for being a part of today's event. We'll definitely be in touch for future events and programs.
Thank you. All the best to all of you in your journeys.
Thank you, Mike, for joining. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Hi, have a great rest of your day, everyone.